3, 2, 1. Welcome to Prime Properties, brought to you by Emerge Real Estate. I'm Michael Morris. With me, as always, Rick DeBoer. Rick, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Now, we brought a little backup because Lou's not here today, but Molly Morgan, also from Emerge.
My right-hand man.
Yeah. I love the way you say that and the way she nods. But I want to remember, we're on radio, yes. Now, first of all, guys, first show of 2020. And I know you're excited because this is a topic. We're going to look at 2020 as a total, not projection, but what we expect in the market. Now, Rick, I'm going to let Molly go first, ladies first, but we're going to get back to this. Molly, what are you looking at for 2020 in a market that traditionally is going to be low on inventory?
You know what? I'm going to let Rick read all of his stats. I'm going to keep him slow and paced. So he's going to...
Should we give a little background that Molly is always here keeping Rick to go slower? And she's actually sitting here. So this could be good. So Rick, jump on it. We got a low inventory situation going into 2020, but the market is still hot.
Yeah, so let's recap 2019 first, maybe a little bit. And so, because there's some things that potentially could happen in 2020 that could hedge and go both ways. So we'll just talk about how 2019 ended first. So the market was up in units. So it was up 1.6% in units. And some people say 1.6% doesn't sound great. But when you're in thousands of transactions, 1.6 is actually very stable, very good. It's better than a negative, obviously, right?
Sure.
So, but 1.6 is it's a good market for Columbus, Ohio. Being up 1.6 is very solid. Some of the markets that you get worried about sometimes when they go up way too fast. If you're in a marketplace and the market went up 7, 8, 9% and you bought something, that means potentially you better watch out because that thing's going to come down hard.
Well, that's where you see that bubble, right?
Yeah. So currently, there's no signs of that in our marketplace at all, zero. And so a lot of people say that and things like that, but there's zero signs for that currently in our market. It's very stable. So units are up 1.6. I'll give you some fun facts, and I always say fun facts, but I'm not sure it's fun for everybody. So I'm going to read them slow. So like Molly said, so the average list price in 2018 was $250,308. The average list price in 2019 is $265,436. It's a great sign. But I want to go to the median list versus the average, and I'll tell you what the median list was. In 2018, it was 203,000, and then the median list in 2019 was 219,900. So it's pretty strong for a median. Now I was out in the green room, I was talking to Molly, and Molly reminded me that she was at OU and she had another major, and she goes, and I said, do you know the difference in between the average and the median? And she said, of course I do, but you might want to explain it to everybody real fast.
Exactly what I said.
That was word for word.
It was word for word. So it's very simple, and I think this is why this is important, because you're going to get on websites, right? Let's say you're not familiar with real estate, and you get on some of these websites. All of them use average prices. So I want you to think about this as you're getting on some of these websites. They'll say the average price. So an average in statistics, that means they take all the numbers around and then just average them by how many digits were in there. I'll give you an example why this is important. Let's say you go to a website and you're in a quadrant where there's homes that could be worth $1 million. But down the street, there could be some homes that are worth $100,000. So on a house, they'll say the average price in this neighborhood might be $498. Well, the median price was only $125.
Right.
So the median is just the number in the middle. So I think you need to really watch them both. And if you want to take some advice from me personally, if you're looking for real estate, forget the average. Just know it. Look for the median price, because you never want to be the highest priced home in any neighborhood. And it's still the same old theory. And if you really break that down, you don't want to be. So the median price tells me a lot. Now here's when I use the average price though. If I'm buying a house in a neighborhood and the median price is $250, but the average is $400, that means that's okay, because there's other bigger houses around me. So I've used those numbers in this conjunction, but for this sake of conversation, the median price is really, I believe, the most important for just a normal person listening to radio. Don't go to Zillow, don't go to Realtor.com, don't look at the average prices, because it means nothing. That computer program went around and used.
But that's what's throwing people off. Is I know a lot of people will say, I don't need a realtor, I'm going to do a FSBO because Zillow says my house is this.
Oh.
Well, yeah. I see Molly's already upset about that, but I think we have to bring that up because the marketing tool tells you to go to the website and it's accurate. It's not accurate based on the day, the hour, the time, because transactions are going on constantly. But if I take that median, it's going to throw off what I really have.
Exactly right. First of all, that computer program is not sophisticated enough to pinpoint accuracies. Unfortunately, today, it's just not accurate enough. That doesn't mean 10 years from now they're not going to work on it, they're not going to get smarter with things. But think about it from what we do. We open up the true solds. We take all FSBOs, we take everything that's sold. We physically, as real estate agents, click on houses around that, and we duplicate your exact house, square footage wise, bedroom wise, layouts, conditions, and then we take into account for all that to come up with a purchase price. None of those websites have that ability at this point. If you want to look at it and have some fun with it, look at it and have some fun with it. But at the end of the day, it's not that. So I'm going to go back to some of these. Those were the average list price. Now, I always say list means nothing. Let's say this. I sit in a house. I live in my normal house I've lived in for 20 years. It's not worth $1 million. It's nowhere near it. But I live in a normal neighborhood where the prices are $250. Standard for what these numbers are. But let's say I throw a sign in my yard and put $1 million on it. That doesn't mean my house is worth $1 million. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the average list price. I want to know solds, right? Solds tells the story. So anyway, the average sales price in 2018 in our Central Ohio market was $228,765. In 2019, so this is a nice price, by the way, $242,854. Very stable too. Nothing crazy. It didn't jump tremendously. A nice driving factor, so that means more equity in people's pockets that own homes. And then the median in 2018 was $195, and in 2019 it was $210. Very sustainable in our marketplace. I mean, it's just, that's why when people say, is there a bubble? No, these numbers are not crazy. They're not jumping crazy. They're just there, and they're perfect. So I want to give you one more, then we can talk about some of the subdivisions and where we think it's going to be in 2020. The average days on the market were 38. Really good, because if you talked 10 years ago, the average days on the market were in the 75s and 80s. But here's a fun fact, because you always say promote eMerge instead of just all real estate. Okay, eMerge's average days on the market in 2019 were 27.
Wow.
And by the way, 27 relates to money in your pocket. Because if you really think about it, somebody might sit back and say, well, that's only X amount of days. What is that, 11 days? Well, multiply 11 days by carrying cost.
Explain what that is.
Carrying cost is very simple. You pay a mortgage. Things cost you money. Taxes are accumulated per day. Your mortgage is accumulated per day. Your electric bill's per day. Everything that you pay for that house is per day. The faster you can get that darn thing closed is more money in your pocket. That is your physical carrying cost. And we beat the market by 11 days. We're averaging 27.
Well, you should mention all those stats, including the days on the market for us and others, are from the Columbus Board of Realtors. So these aren't our own internal stats.
Yeah, that's not you just pulling a spreadsheet from your back pocket. That's actual documentation that anybody else could see.
Yeah, so I'll tell you where the data came from if anybody enjoys it, because there's a lot of real estate agents that watch this show and are listening to it, which I think is super cool. First of all, if any agents want this exact data, all they have to do is go to our MLS, our Flex MLS. All the first half of data is right there. And our 27 days came from a third-party website called Trend Graphics. It's a third-party system that we pay for to get real stats out of. Because it's not fair to just rip our own stats. It's never that. You want to get true stats, and you got to get them from third parties, never from an interested party inside of it. It's easy to make up a number.
Well, it's also when we look at the Business Insider information, and I'll send it to you or we'll talk about it, and you'll say, well, this isn't accurate, because it's an article written by somebody that has a bias. So if I want to say, one of the first shows that we ever did, I was talking about, was there a housing bubble? And you were able to break it down and say there's not, and we're doing it again. We're proving there's not a bubble, because it's not a 7 to 10% increase. Mm-hmm. People are actually getting equity out of these homes, and it's growing at the right rate. It's not exploding for some unknown reason, or people are being given credit on things they shouldn't have, 2 and 3 houses. It's growing at the appropriate rate, and it's strong. That's why we don't have a lot of inventory. But that's why I like when we talk about data, even if it's data that doesn't look good for the market, you're still willing to share it. And I think that's what's important, is being transparent.
Do you remember that show too? We were down in units at that moment in time.
Yeah. And
I said if we cleared the pendings, we would be in a positive state. Yeah. We weren't at 1.6 up in units at that point. The following 2 months after that, we started clearing the pendings.
Yeah, because that was October. We were talking about it in October, and you made that call, and then look where we're at today.
Yeah, up 1.6. We were down at that point in units, and I said there's nothing to worry about. there was a tremendous amount of pendings there, and so there was nothing to worry about. We're up 1.6, it's solid. Well, you brought a great topic, inventory, right? So houses. So we're going to talk about 2020, right? I think it's cool. I think New Year's, and by the way, some fun facts. The Chinese sign is I'm going to send it out to Julie. She's watching. It's the metal rats. It's the metal rat, the Chinese zodiac sign. It's going to be an amazing year. And so anyway, 2020 is going to be an incredible in real estate. There's only 2 factors that could possibly stop it, right? 2 factors that can possibly stop it. One, election years always slow down sales. So when we forecast what's taking place in 2020, it's very difficult in an election year, only because come somewhere July and August, everybody's going to run TV ads where the world's ending. Trust me, I'm 50 plus now years old. The world has been ending every single time. And anybody's that listening...
But only every 4 years.
Oh, every 4 years. It always ends, right? Both sides of them tell all that. But it slows it down. But here's what's good for us. The last time this happened, the market didn't slow down in a election year. It didn't, even though it was a very hot topic. So I still am saying, hey, people are pretty used to it now, stinging and all that's taking place. So I don't think that's going to affect our marketplace. It will slow right before the election because everybody will be busy with it, but it won't slow it down. The next thing, obviously, is what's taking place right now in the major news. If that becomes a more of a situation, then I think that our prediction that we're getting could be a little off a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to tell you what I think the market's going to be. In 2020, we're going to see the exact same thing that we saw in 2019. Job growth is steady in Columbus, Ohio. By the way, it's not great. It's not, oh, it's incredible. It's steady. But by the way, I'm the steady horse in a race. I don't believe running as fast as you can makes anything better. I actually think sometimes that come down off of that backside makes things worse. Right. I love the steady. We're very steady. Yep. Columbus 2020 is doing a tremendous job about bringing companies to Columbus, Ohio. They're bringing that job growth, which, by the way, job growth, if you're just watching this and you want to know how a real estate market is, watch job growth. It is a direct correlation to any real estate market in a country. No job growth, real estate goes bad. Job growth, real estate goes good. Sure. So if you want a simple thing just to watch that. Ours is steady. It's good. Could it be tremendous? Sure. Molly said don't bring up my future ideas on the way in.
So the first thing he's doing is bringing up what I told you not to do.
Well, the first thing, he did say he had a good 2019. I mean, that's fine.
It's great. So anyway, I think 2020 is going to be exactly the same. Interest rates are holding steady. There's no big signs that it's going to go up or down. So it's in a perfect spot. It was in a great spot in 2019. It ended in a great spot. People are getting, great rates on houses. Molly gave me a fun stat. How much are people paying in rent right now?
$1,030 is in
on an average.
Mm-hmm.
On an average, they're paying $1,030
to rent.
To rent. I hope that stops. I think renting is an important stage in people's lives. I think it's an important stage. When you move out, you want to be on your own before you really commit. And for a younger generation, you don't know where you're going to work, you don't know where you're going to be. So I think it's a crucial part of it. But I also think at some point, if you've been renting for 5 years and paying $1,031, what's the average house payment right now? $1,300. So you're talking about $300, and some people might say, well, that's $300 more dollars. But if you do your tax exemptions correctly, you could make that up, which is another show. But it's really not monetarily that much difference, and you're actually building equity in something that you own. And obviously, the house price is on a steady gain. Some of the people on the other side might go, but Rick, there's also a loss. There could be a loss like there was in 8 and 9. I say, yeah, there could be. I lived it. But like any investment, if you hold on to it, like in a true investment, then it comes back around. It will if you spend that time in it. So anyway, 2020, it is going to be an incredible year for real estate. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. Great interest rates. Here's what we need. Molly, read some of these to them. Tell them what we need.
Well, we need more houses for sale in Columbus, Ohio, for sure.
Well, that's always step one. I don't even think that's written down, but keep going.
Great. No, I mean, I did a stat yesterday. I just looked up Pickerington. I needed a client was looking to sell, and there are only 7 homes in Pickerington that are under 200,000.
7.
7 houses.
There's 3 of us here in the office. We should just sell our houses.
Right.
Us 3 right now.
I'll tell you right now. No, it's not. But there's a lot of other areas that are just as short in inventory. What else do you have on your stats?
So I'll read some of them. Total houses. I'm going to read you in case you're listening and you're in one of these school districts. First of all, does anybody know the exact population of Columbus, Ohio?
The number, are you including the outer range?
Everything.
So,
outer range.
It used to be about 2.3 million people.
By the way, I'm going to agree because I read 2.4 this morning and I didn't know.
And that could be right because, again, it varied between 2.3, 2.35, but that was the number we always went off. But I can tell you when you're driving around this city, there's more than 2.3 million people here. I can tell you that.
But I tell you what, everybody, listen, I might buy a house in Florida to get away from the snow, but I'm never leaving Columbus, Ohio. It is the most amazing place to raise a family. It is a great conservative place that you can find a little bit of everything going on here. I am never leaving Columbus, Ohio. So many great businesses here, so many great schools here, but we are at a house shortage, so I'm going to get back to that. 2.4 million people in Columbus, Ohio, and we're talking about 67 homes in Pickerington.
Right.
Total.
Doesn't that sound funny to everybody?
Yeah.
All right, and then in Dublin, total houses. Oh, by the way, for the record, we left out condos on this. We're just talking about single-family homes. As of this morning, right now, you heard me on the phone getting this data. I was doing it right, so it's accurate as can be.
Right.
So Dublin, there's 121 homes for sale. Westerville, 69. Gahanna, 51. New Albany, 42. Reynoldsburg, 34. Worthington, 26. And I just basically stopped there. It's similar on every city. It's similar. And I suggest this. If you're thinking about selling your home, if you're thinking about it, I don't know when things change. Nobody can predict that. But I know one thing, that currently today in this environment, 38 days on the market, 27 with eMerge, we're averaging 98.9% of the list price to sale price. That means we're hitting the bullseye almost all the time when you get with one of our agents. Houses are needed. I can't tell you what's going to happen 2 years from now. I can't. Nobody can. But I can tell you today and in 2020, it's hot and you're getting great returns. So if you're even contemplating it, houses are needed in all those quadrants. In every quadrant in the city, houses are needed.
Well, those numbers, I think it looks like, oh, that's not a lot. Let's take some of the population of those cities, right? So two of them right now are over 35,000 people live in that city. So when you say there's only 24 homes available, that really spotlights the small percentage of homes that are available today. So, but this is my question to you. Somebody who's a little picky, who's, I want the white picket fence, all that kind of thing. Can they still afford to be picky?
On the buy side.
Yeah, that's what I mean, if I'm buying.
Well, I'll flow with this a little bit, Molly, but you can add in some too, because it's cool because Molly and I have been together for 15, 20 years in real estate, and it's cool because we always banter back and forth opinions since we're both the brokers at eMerge, and so we have great conversations. But I always correlate pickiness with cost, right? Because I'm a numbers person, and that's it. I barely have any feelings. I don't mean that.
No, that's why you're on the show, because I also have, I'm cold inside too. But I'm talking about the person who does have feelings. So let's say Molly might not be a best example. We don't have anybody in the studio that's like this. But you have people who, they have an image of what they want, right? So when they go into a neighborhood, the price is secondary. I want you to advise that person, is price primary? Yeah. Or is it, this is my image of what I need to have to raise my kids? Because that's how home ownership is always sold. You go back to ads from the 1960s, 70s, it was, here's where you're going to raise your family forever. Mm-hmm. We don't really have that kind of society anymore. It's a 7 to 10 year window, and then you're moving because of schools or whatever. But emotion shouldn't enter into the purchase, correct? No, and we train our agents really well. And also we train our agents to answer that question specifically. Now, I'll give you a real life example. There was a particular client that wanted a finished bath in a room, right? Wanted a finished bath. I can't remember if it was on a slab or in a basement. But
they wanted like another bathroom.
They needed another bathroom. And it was very important because of their family size that they needed another bathroom. And trust me, I understand that completely, and most people with that family size do. But unfortunately, when they looked at this particular house, they loved every aspect of it, except for there was no plumbing for another bathroom. And for a first-time home buyer to break out slabs and break out piping to do it is not feasible. Monetarily, it's not feasible. So I'll go back to the white fence. So we advise our clients on, hey, necessities. Is another bathroom a necessity? Because financially, that's a big one. So you might want to step back and say, hey, let's readdress that. A white fence outside? Molly's got kids. Let's build a fence, Moll. Right? Fences, we sit down per client and say, hey, what is really necessities? Is it a function of this house that can be there and added inexpensively, or is it a function of the house that just can't happen? I need a 4th bedroom. I love the house. I love the location, but I need a 4th bedroom. Listen, I'd sit down, so will our agents at eMerge, and say, hey, you really need to think hard about this, because a 4th bedroom, I know you're excited, and I know you see a space over the garage, but it's not as easy as you think here. So let's really think about this particular house. So yeah, it's a give and take. So my advice is give and take, but never take away from the real foundation issues that you need on the house. Anything else? You want a deck? Easy. Do it later. It's cool. You want something else in the house? Cool. Later. That's fine. Then just look for the hard roots of that house, right?
Right. I know I've been in conversations in these networking groups and all that, and I hear a realtor say to somebody, well, you better jump on this because somebody else will. Is that really to the benefit of the client, or is that to the person selling the house? And that's what a lot of people listening to this are going to have that agent sitting in the car saying, oh, you should be in this house. Mm-hmm. The benefit should be to the client, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're always looking out at eMerge for people. I'm protecting you, taking the emotion out. A lot of people do want a commission. So if you're riding with that person, that's the wrong person to be with, right?
That's right. See, we have a theory at eMerge. See, commission's something we earn. We don't even think about it. We think about the client first. And if the client is taken care of, that's something that comes secondary. So the only time I'd ever tell a client to jump, the only time is after I know that client really well. And if I know that client really well, and we've seen multiple houses, and I know, hey, Molly, let's say Molly's my client. Hey, this is perfect for you. We're in this house. You can't hedge. You need to make an offer on this particular house because we've been looking. But if it is not everything you want, don't do this. Don't do it. Because listen, I think at eMerge we build dreams for people. I want them to freaking love that house. I want them to come back and say, this is the most amazing house ever. So I agree with you. If somebody's ever worried about their commission, run away.
Yeah.
Just run.
You can tell that desperation. But I think you also have to listen to your agent. I mean, I just looked at my stat here. There are only 5 homes in Dublin between 200 and 300. So if you're a real estate agent and you really trust them and they've been working with you for a while, if they're telling you to jump, you probably do need to jump. If this is the right answer.
If there's because if there's only 5 homes on the market and you've seen all 5, and this one comes up and you know it's the right one.
It has everything you need and all that. You do have to. You can't sit.
Yeah, you can't sit. That's the one thing is agreeable. You cannot sit in this marketplace, but you also make sure it's the right house.
Yeah.
But when somebody professionally tells you it's time, you should do it.
Are there 2 different markets though? When I look at it this way, if 34%, I believe that's the last number I saw, 34% of home buyers are the millennial generation. Maybe the Dublin area is not where they want to start. I mean, or I could be wrong. That's why I'm asking your opinion, because when it comes down to how much do you have to put into this, are you going to stay for a decade or more? You'll make those sacrifices, but that's a whole new generation of money that we haven't seen how they react yet. We're just seeing that kind of roll out. Are there 2 different buyers?
Well, sometimes when I'm going to get back to millennials, sometimes the millennials, by the way, are going to be the next best generation for us.
Right.
And listen, when I was a kid, we had Atari. Listen, I sat around and played Atari, Space Invaders. Remember that game?
Yeah.
That generation above us used to say, that game's going to make those kids bad.
They thought it was going to rot our brains.
That's right.
These millennials, by the way, whatever they say about them and all that stuff, this is our next best generation ever. I truly believe it. They think of ideas quickly. They're willing to work with other people in different environments and different structures. But I'm going to get back to the housing market. And by the way, they want to be around different things. They want to be around different functions. They want to be around a grocery store, a nightlife, something they can walk to, which is cool. So do I. But I'll get back to their buying power. You can't classify anyone until you speak to them. People said that I played Atari, so I'm going to be bad. I turned out okay. Right? And so
you wouldn't be on this show otherwise.
But everyone has their own. Let's say I meet a young couple that's having a family and they know they want to be in a school district because that's where they went to school too. Well, listen, that's a longer term purchase. So let's go for the school district you really want. But let's say I meet a young couple that are really advancing in their careers and they don't want any kids, but they want a solid amount of equity in the house. Well, let's shop for an equity area that's increasing in value, like we talked about, and we're going to talk all year about around the Children's Hospital area and the tax abatements, and that's all coming up on future shows. So I don't classify people in any quadrants. I just want to meet them, talk with them, and figure out, hey,
what are your goals?
That's it.
What do you want to do?
What do you want to be? Because I just think everybody's different in where you want to be is where you want to be. We have 3 minutes left. Can I add a bonus play to you and Molly and everybody?
I do love the bonus
play. I'm nervous.
A lot of real estate agents are watching this. This is super cool because I want you to friend request me on Facebook like you have been doing because I want you to follow this. This is super cool. And the one thing that we're in is goal setting meetings for our real estate agents. And the cool thing about people listening to this, everybody knows somebody that's a real estate agent. It's like you can reach out your hand and somebody knows somebody that's a real estate agent. And so my push for this year, my push in 2020 is to make agents have full capability of themselves. I don't want them to work from home anymore. That is an old myth I think they should get rid of. We are seeing truly successful agents turn the page by coming to the offices. eMerge has 16 offices and growing. I truly believe that I want agents to come in, besides just for their own piece, but we have training classes every single day. In turn, that helps the consumer. My big push for 2020 is to friend us on Facebook. We want to get agents into our offices because we can see that the training and the magic happens inside of those offices.
And again, I will say, as being an outsider walking in and seeing one of those classes, I was amazed at the detail that you guys go into, and everyone is attentive. Like, they are there to learn. This isn't a requirement that you have to sit there. Lou's not even, he hasn't sold a house in like 10 years. He still goes to these classes because he wants to know what's going on. And the best way to learn is to read, see this stuff, and have somebody tell you, here's what's happening, here's the new transitions. You want to be ahead to protect your client because you'll get more business by doing that.
Exactly. If we go through 3,000 deals and all of our management staff, all of our brokers can sit down and say, here, look, this is how this happened, we can safeguard the consumer by training our agents to the maximum capability. So this is out to those guys watching this and all the real estate agents. Man, our doors are open. We want to train the best.
But if
by the way,
we
want the best.
Right, you want the best, but how can the best reach you?
Well, they can reach Molly at her cell phone.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
No, honestly. So my Facebook is Rick, and the secret of Rick is just Rick, R-I-C, right? So it's Rick DeVore. Facebook friend me. You can watch these. But Molly, you can always see one of our agents at e-merch.com. You can go find one of our agents, 1-800-OH-HOMES. And then we're also on Facebook everywhere. It's hard to miss us. We are the third largest brokerage in the city. If you have Google, you can pop it in there. You can Google myself, you can Google Molly, you can Google eMerge, but we truly want you to friend request us so you can keep up with these things and you can just keep up with what we're talking about, just in real estate in general.
Perfect. Well, Rick, Molly, thank you for today. I think it was eye-opening, and we got a lot more coming in the next few months. So tune in to Prime Properties, brought to you by eMerge Real Estate, and we will see you next week.